Well, I hope you enjoyed the first half of our high school reunion unscripted episode. We're going to continue it with part 2 right now, and I hope that you enjoy some of the banter that we had back and forth. We try to keep things light. I've known these guys for almost my entire life. They're great guys. We did get each other a little bit, but at the end of the day, we all love each other. It's a lot of fun, and we're going to cover a few different topics that are kind of random, but again, unscripted this time as well. We can talk. That's all there is to it. We can talk. Probably could have gone 4 or 5 hours or longer, but for your benefit, we did cut ourselves off. So, high school reunion unscripted part 2. I hope you enjoy it, share it, like it, and thank you to mustny.com for being our show sponsor and for producing those masks, those COVID masks. Make sure you check them out. Again, mustny.com. And here's part 2 of high school reunion unscripted. But let's start with sports because, I think that it's important. You have to have a common interest with somebody that you're going to be friends with for a while. And we've all suffered through many things. I think we've had a lot of, we used to go down to the games together and down at Albany. We did Firebirds, the arena team. For
River Rats.
River Rats, yep.
River Rats, RPI and Union Hockey.
Yep.
Basketball.
Siena basketball, yep.
And I think that we've all been there for each other through the hard times. Commiserating when our teams were lousy. And I will say, Tim, I think Tim had a sports shirt for every day of the school year of different teams,
probably,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
But we've all been there for each other. We've all had that common thread, and so I think that's important. I'm angry these days, and you guys have been a good support group. I know, Chris, you're a Giants fan. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I am beside myself with the way the team, but we commiserate, and then we're also there for each other when our teams are winning. Talk about how you how has that kind of played into our relationship and maybe relationship that you've had with your kids or other friends as well, because I know you're all hardcore. Mike, let's start with you. You're in Hawkeye country there.
Yeah, and that's probably, my father-in-law he had 2 girls, which is great, but he never had sons. And then, I came along and just I shared a passion for sports like he does. He doesn't watch much TV unless there's a sports game on. I quickly learned to love the Hawkeyes. When we moved out here, we got season tickets. He's had them for years. That's kind of permeated through our family. My wife was always a Hawkeye fan. We love going to the games. In fact, we've been starting to go to the bowl games since the Rose Bowl that the Hawkeyes went to and got slaughtered by McCaffrey and Stanford 5 years ago. We've been going basically to every bowl game, and that's been a ton of fun. And it's been something that we actually kind of commiserate's a bad word, but something that we all just kind of relate to. It's something we all enjoy together. We tailgate before every game when you can tailgate and actually go to the games, unlike this year. But we have so much fun around the Hawkeyes and watching them. And that's just kind of led to me kind of fitting right in with my wife's family. It permeates to our kids to a certain extent. My son-in-law. Really? Your daughter got married already? Yeah, exactly. A little early.
She's not that old.
My son loves the Hawkeyes. I distinctly remember I took my daughter to a daddy-daughter dance. Came home. It was halftime of the 10 title game with Michigan State and Iowa when they lost to Michigan State, and then Iowa eventually went to the Rose Bowl. I distinctly remember Derek sat down and watched the whole first half with Maddie, and ever since then, he's just loved the Hawkeyes. He just can't get enough of them. Wants to be at the games, wants to watch them, wants to watch the basketball games, everything. So that's kind of been like what we have, the 4 of us all shared a love for the Giants. Tim and I watched Syracuse win the national championship together. Remember that?
2003, up on a Monday night.
Been to different games together and things. So it's always been something that I think it binds people because it gives you something to talk about. It's something you really enjoy. All of us really love it.
And I think I'm going to go back to Chris because we know Chris's history at concerts. He also has a history at sporting events as well. Chris may be the first sober individual to almost get kicked out of an arena football game.
Yes, you're going to go there. You're going there.
How does somebody who's sober hasn't had one drink almost get kicked out of? And let me I want to be very clear. I didn't say National Football League game. I said Arena Football League game because the game was clearly so exciting that Chris decided to buy a program, or no, maybe it was a flyer, and decided to take the flyer literally and throw the flyer into the net of the arena football game. I think it was the Tampa Bay Storm and the Albany Firebirds. I actually remember that. So anyway, there's a history there. So clearly, Chris loves the sports, but he also loves the sport within the sport.
Well,
you want to say anything about that, or?
Well, if you remember, that paper airplane went across the entire arena. It just floated along there and ended up completely on the other side. It was one of the prolific paper airplane flights ever.
It was the single greatest sporting event that happened in the Nick that year.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a fair assessment.
In Chris's defense, those Arena Football League nets are giant. So
yeah, they're huge.
It's pretty easy to hit those.
But
if anybody still
far
remembers Arena Football,
The poor security guard who didn't have to do anything all year. This older gentleman has to walk all because we're way up in the rafters, even though the buzz. I don't know why.
I love this quote. I love this quote. Go say it.
Hey, one more, you're out. Very simple. And actually, when it came to friendships and women, Chris also heard that a lot. One more, you're out. Anyway, enough about that.
Well, yeah. Well, if I even had the one more, but it actually, it's funny you say that. So we had that at the arena football game, and then you mentioned a concert, and Brian, you were there with me before Dave Matthews. And
that's what you say. I was there with him. There's nothing to actually say. Just that I was there with him.
Yes, and
that's all you can say.
Yeah, and we were in the park, and the park ranger came up, I think, to you and said, "Oh no, you're not drinking in the parking lot." So, yeah. So yeah, you can, we'll see. You're just
hide it as well, apparently.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you. I want to thank you because another thing, we're in the hallway of high school now. Now keep in mind, a lot of our listeners, a lot of our friends, right? We now have kids that are in high school.
Right.
So picture this guy right here. I don't know why I just said this guy. I hate it when people say this guy. Happy birthday to this guy. So say my husband, my whatever, not this guy, right? But anyway, Chris wearing I believe it was a hat. Was it Fossil or was it Ray Hanley?
Ray Hanley.
Yeah.
Ray
must go with all these stickers and headlines from the newspaper on a hat walking down the hallway in high school, that was again more commiserating on that. You're a big sports fan too. I didn't really, and it's obviously meant a lot to you over the years. But what's a memory that you have? I just gave you two. Any Giants memories that you have?
Well, of course. It's funny, not specific to the Giants, but I do remember the four of us getting together often to watch games. We were at each other's home actually a lot. I remember sitting in Mike's house watching Steelers games. I'm not quite sure why, but we did. And then we of course watched in my house, Brian's house, Tim's house, whatever. And it's we enjoyed that, just being together. And honestly, it didn't even matter how our team did. We were together having snacks, pizza, whatever. Our families were around us too, and we all got along and just enjoyed ourselves. There wasn't this need to, drink all the time or be nasty or and that I know that's what some people do even now. Hey, even as adults in a sense, just go to the parking lots before a Bills game, but. I remember, it's funny, one of the stories I do remember, I don't know if you all remember it, but Tim's mother was an art teacher. And I broke my wrist in college, rollerblading. And no, I wasn't doing anything.
Steeplechase? Not steeplechase?
I broke it in college and about 30 times in high school too, but nonetheless.
Yes. Well, what's weird is I had never broken any bones my entire life, and I broke my elbow in my senior year of high school, and then I broke my wrist in my freshman year in college. So in less than a year, I broke 2 bones. But what I was saying was that was kind of a long journey for me. It was about 2.5 years of surgeries and everything else. But Tim's mother, I had a cast, and she painted. The dog is here with me now. She painted buffalo on there, and I think you guys were there if I remember. And it was a neat time, but that's the kind of relationships we had, where
Yep.
we could do things together, and it was very family oriented with all the parents and the kids.
And the other thing that's interesting, and Tim, I want to get to you here too, because as I said, I didn't know anybody that has as many shirts that you have of numerous different teams, which
That
is awesome.
continued as an adult, like every NFL polo and every NFL coaching polo.
Well,
So
Mike
that
and I-
continued into adulthood.
But Brian, Mike and I saw his closet.
Yeah.
It's very colorful. It's a rainbow full of
Yes, it
colors
is.
of sports uniforms.
But and it's not just pro teams. I mean, I remember you distinctly had a Cameroon jersey, right?
A which jersey? Sorry.
Cameroon jersey.
Yep, I have
Yes,
Cameroon, Ivory
You know,
Coast. Yep.
it's all over the map.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's pretty bizarre.
So,
It's
Tim,
unique. It's like a conversation starter at a party.
Yeah. Come see my closet. Yeah.
Well, Tim, the fact that you're wearing those to parties is a whole separate show that we have to talk about. But
Yeah.
nonetheless. So let me ask you this: as a super sports fan, right, Tim? Because you are.
Yep, for sure.
Why the investment in all these shirts? And I'm not saying that in a joking way. You guys saw my show with Bill's Mafia, License Plate Guy. We talked about super fandom, and you're a big sports fan. But the one thing that I always noticed was that it wasn't necessarily always it was just any team. It wasn't necessarily a team that you were a fan of. We won't talk about the Falcons.
Yeah, let's not go there.
But I know you have a lot. I would never buy anything.
I have a lot of Falcons gear.
Right.
Yeah.
Why? What was it about the sports that was so important to you, that would kind of represented your wardrobe, your mindset and things? What was it about that?
Yeah, I think it's just love of the team. Yeah, kind of like your super fan thing. You just want to love that team and like represent. Sometimes if it's a regional thing, some of my loyalties here with like the Twins and the Wild, like I like wearing that gear from time to time. So that's fun. And, you like to be part of the area. I'm sure Chris is like that with the Bills. You want to wear the gear of your team. And if the team's in the playoffs, you're going to wear the jersey to work, that kind of thing, which never happens here. But, but that kind of spirit, like I always wear my Syracuse jersey for when the NCAA tournament plays, for round one, I wear that to work, and everybody knows the Cuse is in the house, even in Minneapolis. So I do that. So yeah, it's loving the team.
So I just want to throw this out there as well, and this will be another good hashtag. Of the guests that I've had on, I think Syracuse is the most well represented.
I know, Kristen McCory.
Yeah,
I heard her.
Kristen and Wendy Haggerty.
Yep. It's like every guest.
Geez,
every guest on the show is like
almost
Syracuse.
every guest, and those are good ones too. Interior design and sex and relationships. My God, what was going on at that school? I should have gone there. So the other common thread that we've had has been music, and I remember. I vividly remember so many music conversations. As we said before, we've gone to a lot of sporting events together. We've also gone to a lot of concerts together. Yep. And I remember Tim, and I'm going to throw Tim under the bus a little bit here. This is not as embarrassing as Chris's stuff. But nonetheless. But I remember Tim skipping out of school to go get the new Phil Collins tape. It wasn't even CD at that point, I don't think. The merciless treat of Phil Collins. I remember that vaguely.
I love Phil Collins. You know what I ran into on the treadmill today? I ran into the treadmill of Genesis 1987 at Wembley Stadium. That's what I ran on the treadmill this morning, Brian.
So we all have a lot of, and I will say that a lot of the jokes and a lot of the busting that we do on each other happens to do with music and sports, but music. So I'm bringing up my favorite debate now, and you guys can throw any band into the mix here. I don't want to hear anybody bash Nickelback tonight. Dude,
Never.
Don't even think of Mike Brown. Don't do it. Queensryche is the Nickelback of the '80s. Okay.
No, wait. All right. So wait, before you go into this, before you go into this, Brian, I have a hypothetical for you. Okay. So let's say that hordes of people are watching David Hasselhoff belt out Nickelback while shirtless running around the stage. Are you happy about this, or are you miserable?
Put on a damn shirt, Hasselhoff. That's all I have to say.
All right, and then you're good.
I will not waver from that.
All right,
I will not waver from those shirts.
That's fair. All right.
Put on a shirt, Hasselhoff. If it's a movie, that's one thing. If it's a movie, but if it's a concert, he needs to wear a shirt. I'm sorry, he does.
I'm just gonna say I listen to the show all the time. I'm on Team Hasselhoff, man. I love Knight Rider. I'm sorry, man. You're our age. You're like 8 years old. Watching Knight Rider. How can you not love the man?
Yeah,
right.
Done.
It was.
I don't like it. I've talked about this. So I want to ask you that, is there something that you guys have in life that bothers you? Because something that And when I Mike, I said that I liked Queen, but I remember people, they're posers, they're Pink Floyd wannabes. People did give them a hard time, and they did have some very cheesy songs that were almost like, and then they had some rock songs. I thought they really were almost like the Nickelback of that time. But I want to ask each of you a question. Do you have something that maybe is a little bit bordering on hokey, cheesy, that you like that gets hated on, that you don't understand, or makes you angry that it gets hated on? Like it really shouldn't. It could be a person, it could be a band, it could be a sport. Is there anything? Chris, I'm going to start with you on this one. Put you on the spot. You know what bothers me? I have a lot of things that bother me. I actually do like. I like it when guys wear red sweatshirts, so you're okay on the show. But what?
Nice.
There's so many things I could say about the red sweatshirt, but I'm not going to.
Hey, listen. I was at a soccer game, and it's not exactly warm out. So
Yeah, you think I does live in Buffalo? Let's give him that.
Jeez.
I mean,
It's a Nike one, all right? What do you want me to do?
I feel like there's so much I want to say about the red sweatshirt. I'm going to spare the details of it. I have some nicknames for you. Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to hate on you because you're something and someone cheesy that I love. I don't think people hate on you though, but people like you. But what is something that you? And by the way, guys, just so you know, I was looking at the time, and this is definitely going to be a two-parter because nobody's going to want to listen to us for an hour and a half here. But anyway, so we're going to keep going for a few more minutes. I'm going to let you get back to your families, but this is probably going to be a two-parter. I'm just warning you. But Chris,
Yeah.
something that's a little borderline that you could be judged for, but that you like and say, don't hate on me for that.
Well, right now it's one of the things that is being a Giants fan. It's a real tough time. So that's hard. But I've been an 80s music junkie
There it
for
is.
my whole life. And so I know you're gonna you baited me with that one, but I just am. I listen to it all the time. I still do. When I work at my factory, I'm listening to it. When I'm packing masks, I'm listening to it. In the car, I'm listening to it.
But
So
you've disappointed me here because I did bait you. I was hoping for a much better answer that I could really lay in on. But 80s music, how is that? That's people hate on that? I mean, I love 80s music.
well, you hate on it when you're not born, when you didn't live through the 80s. Yeah. So you get kids saying, what's that? Where's that music from? Even, because the kids are of age, they don't even know what 90s music is either, from all those concerts that we used to go to. So that's what I mean. They can't relate because all the music today is absolute crap.
Not all of it.
A lot of it.
A lot of it. Well, yeah, and I think that's what's fascinating about this for me is like I love 80s music too. Tim and to this, I know,
course.
and it's like, but like it was the start of things really being overproduced, and so like you get it from both sides. You get younger people who don't understand it because they like what's going on today, and that's different. And you've got the folks from the 70s and 60s who were very into the rock vibe, right? And I'm not talking Queensryche or glam metal or Motley Crue or anything like that. I mean, rock and roll, okay, like the Stones and the Beatles and things of that nature. And they just think it's overproduced. So, Chris, I'm going to refine what you said. Like, it's not just 80s music, yacht rock radio.
I love yacht rock.
I know exactly. See,
I live on it, man. The whole summer it's on satellite radio. Live on it. Love it.
So I think there's a portion of the population that doesn't necessarily know what yacht rock is.
Okay.
And so I just want to make sure, Tim, because this is totally your thing. I mean, Tim is literally on the yacht with the boat shoes and the khakis and it's Arizona Cardinals golf polo shirt, right? I remember that one.
Yeah.
With the black shoes. Actually, you'd be wearing black shoes. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So explain. There might be some people, but what is the definition of yacht rock?
They're very specific about this. It's like 1976 to like 1982 soft rock. If you want an artist to hit this, and Michael know this, Doobie Brothers, Michael McDonald, and Christopher Cross, and maybe a little Steely Dan is the entire 50-song playlist on Yacht Rock.
Air Supply.
Air Supply too, yeah.
Air
But if
Supply.
you love Michael McDonald and Christopher Cross, this is the channel for you.
I don't think that's a channel for too many people. What about Huey Lewis?
No,
Huey Lewis is outside.
No, he's out. He's out.
He's outside.
No.
Okay. Because I love Huey Lewis on the news.
I'll just say for me, Yacht Rock brings me to a place of me and my brother listening to, they used to call it 70s AM gold radio as kids. At my dad's cottage near Cooperstown, New York. That's where that brings me, and that's why I like listening to it. It's weird.
Very similar
It's
thing for
specific.
me. My father driving me around going to soccer games, and there was that type of thing that I would hear on the radio. And so that's instantly what I think of is that type of time, and it's fond memories. I totally agree with you.
Even though we were 5 years old, you remember the radio back then.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, remember when we were at that age, we were listening to our parents' music, which is exactly what this Yacht Rock radio was, and then we started to transition to kind of our own music. But there was nothing else in the car except the radio back then, and so we were all listening. Well, if you remember, that was when Michael Jackson started, also. Christopher Cross, Air Supply, Pointer Sisters, that kind of thing. That's exactly what was on the radio and what we listened to.
Thanks, Dad. Thanks,
Yeah,
Dad.
exactly.
Can you go get the station wagon and drive it around back for us, Dad?
Yeah.
Talking to you, Chris.
Yeah. I have one. I have
sure.
one.
Of course you do.
It is interesting, and and it is funny because you talk about the whole point. Tim, I clearly don't have to ask you something that's embarrassing about Yacht Rock. Now we know what the embarrassing thing that people hate.
You can move on. There's my answer. Of course.
I'm with you though on that.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because I really do feel like I've had this conversation with some people on the show. You guys have heard it, but I don't like the fact that some of the younger generation doesn't know things that happened years ago. And I guess not necessarily history. I mean, they most of the time they'll learn that in school, but more like pop culture kind of things. And I always remember it was several years ago, but I was out to dinner, and I started having a conversation with the server, and I don't remember how the conversation came up. We started talking about TV shows. Oh, you remember? I think it was I don't remember. I'll just say Different Strokes, right, or whatever. I don't think it was Different Strokes. Oh, when was that on? Oh, in the 80s. Oh, well, I wasn't born yet. And I remember just getting really angry. Okay, because I'm like, okay, so you weren't born in the 80s. That means you should only know things that happened while you were born. So, for example, okay, and you've heard me go off on this before. Music that took place well before we were born.
Yes.
Stick with that mindset. I should never have heard of I was going to say Barbra Streisand, but the Beatles, right? I mean, I know that's a different example. Engelbert Humperdinck.
Yep.
I'm not saying I would know their songs.
Here's
I
another
know
one.
the people.
Yep.
Why did I say Engelbert Humperdinck? I have no idea why.
Because Gordon Lightfoot didn't come to your head.
But
It's a fair argument.
I don't like that.
Argument.
I've heard of shows. I've heard of. Again, I might not be an expert. I might not have ever seen a full show of Mr. Ed, but I am aware of the premise of the show.
Yep.
I am aware that it existed, and I would never say to somebody, "Well, I wasn't born yet, so I don't really know what that is." No, do some research on your pop culture. And
Wikipedia, do a
You know what it
Wikipedia
is,
the first
though, Brian?
paragraph.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong about this, but I think there's so much information right now, right? I mean, it's just it's instantaneous. You want to know something, get out your phone, go on a computer, whatever. Get out your encyclopedia. Don't do that. Don't get your encyclopedia.
What's that? What's an encyclopedia? I mean,
yeah, you could find it exactly. The kids won't know. There's a good example. It's so easy to find information, but because of that, there's so much overload. There's not even an attention span for it, for what happened in the past. Because there's so many things that are current and now. Why would I waste my time with what's in the past? So I think that's part of it. I could be wrong.
It's funny you say, because I did have a discussion a few months ago with somebody who said the same thing. And I guess my question to that is so then do we, I mean, not that it's our place to accept it or not accept it, but is that answer, is that rationale acceptable? Do we well, it's fine, they're just all on the phone, or we say, no, you should know what a show is, that was a popular show in the 80s. I mean, again, I know these are the things that keep me up at night, you know that, but it's not affecting my life, but it bothers me.
Well, pop culture, I'm gonna be honest, if anytime you have conversations with people, even just colleagues, whatever, pop culture usually comes into the conversation often. It could be, it could be just about, someone recently who had something happen to them, but well, like, this spring, Kobe Bryant dying. Okay.
Yep.
That was, you may not be a basketball fan, but you would know about the situation and obviously the tragedy behind his death, but you knew of him. Knowing the past, important things, you brought up the Beatles. If you don't know anything about the Beatles, then you must be living under a rock. Popular shows, like Cheers, or Friends or Seinfeld, or, they're a part of our lives, even if they're not a part of our lives. And so you really had to have some sort of an awareness. And today, that's not as much the case, because all of us, but even the younger generation, we're becoming dumber because of our phones. And but we all do it. We're like, oh, what year was that? Or, what happened? Who won that Super Bowl or whatever? And we constantly are looking it up. But at least we have a better, we're able to recall things and to have conversations about it. But I'm finding that harder and harder, with certain people, because they either don't pay attention or just choose not to really care anymore. And they're just concerned with, Instagram.
And I think that has bred a culture of going back, getting full circle here, going even back to what we were saying at the beginning of the show. Or it'll probably end up being the last show if we cut this in two. But, the laziness. I have no tolerance, whether it's my kids or anything. There's just a certain amount of laziness that I see. Most of it doesn't impact me, but, I don't have tolerance for it. If I see my kids lying around and, they have a right to play on the PS4 once in a while, right? But when I see them just lying there, yeah, I guess I did that with Atari maybe growing up, but I don't remember doing. Weren't we outside? See, I walked to school uphill in the rain.
Oh my gosh!
That's like our thing now. But weren't we always outside? I remember.
Yeah.
We'd be in our driveways playing basketball
For like 3 hours.
3 hours. I mean,
Brian, you've officially, if you were a TV show, you will have officially jumped the shark right now. So in old age, it is just you're like these young whippersnappers. Oh my goodness, come back here.
What commercial is that? Where they say, what's that commercial right now where they say we're going to prevent you from becoming your dad? And
don't say it.
It's progressive.
They can't be a sponsor of the show. I only want to mention that if they're going to be a sponsor. No, I'm kidding. I think it sounds progressive or something, isn't it?
It's progressive. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Right. But it's so funny because you sit there and say, how can you not care about this? And meanwhile, the younger generation would say, why would I care about it?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm necessarily wrong. It's just different. It's different perspective and stuff like that.
I wonder if it comes down to being a history buff, because I care about things that happened before I was born in the 40s and 50s. Like when they talk about the greatest generation in the 1940s, people, and I care about that, and I didn't live through it, and I care about it. But is that maybe because all of us are history buffs? That's the part I don't know. And maybe there's a little to social media and maybe how people have raised have changed, but you got to wonder that.
Yeah. So so here we go. We're getting to the end here because we've talked a lot. I want to let you guys get back to your families. We will have you guys on again. There was much more decorum than I anticipated. I have to say, it was definitely more cerebral than I thought. For those of you who are listening or watching, I said to these guys, I usually go into each show with at least, some form of structure, just in case, you get somebody that doesn't talk or something and you have to, look at the question. I knew I wouldn't have that issue with you guys. So we came into the show completely unscripted. Yep. There was no leg in the conversation, which I pretty much knew. But before we leave, though, because of the high school reunion theme, okay, so we graduated in 1993. So what does that mean? We have is there a reunion? There's a reunion coming up when? It's what are we at now?
2023.
27. Ask the math guy.
Ask the math guy, right? So there's going to be a reunion coming up.
Yep.
You're saying right? Okay, which seems odd. I don't think none of us, I don't think went to the other. I didn't go to the other reunions.
No,
I haven't been to any of
I
them.
think we
I
should go
didn't.
to the next one. Let me ask you this question. And I'm going to start with Mike, and we're going to work our way down here, and then we're going to end the show. Again, you've been listening to Eye on Life podcast. Listen, follow, share, like, and certainly go to mustny.com. Chris and Monica making amazing COVID masks out there in Western New York. They serve a greater purpose than just protecting us. So that's awesome. Thank you again, Chris. So I want to ask you, what would be a reason, Mike, I'll start with you, to want to go back to the Shenandoah class of 1993 reunion? And I'm asking this really not specific to our high school. This is kind of the question that, we've all had conversations with our friends in bars over a drink, right? Would you go to your high school reunion? Why do you want to go? Why do you not want to go? What would make you want to go back to your high school? You're going to the next one probably.
3 years from now, when you're reaching millions of fans and you're rolling up in a limo, I want to be there to see it. So Tim can be the paparazzi because
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll shoot on my iPhone.
Right, exactly. So no, the reason, it's interesting because for years, I wouldn't say I shunned Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. I just didn't really have a need to do it. Just didn't. It wasn't really a draw for me. Over the last year or so, I've gotten on it and just been able to reconnect with you guys. Eric Kenya, Todd Cooperman, who we were, and I could go up and down the line. Kathy Santoro-Novak, who I just saw, and Mike Novak. So I just saw a couple of months ago, and it's so funny that we could have not talked to each other for years. And that's happened at times with us. And then you fall right back into a cadence, just instantly. Like you said, you didn't script any of this. You didn't talk about what topics we were going to talk about beforehand, anything like that, because you just knew we would have no problem talking back and forth. And that's just because you know people so well. You love talking to them. You share a lot of common interests. And that's why I would go back as to how are people doing? Let me reconnect with certain people. Let me find out what's going on with their lives, how they got their families, what's really interesting them. And to me, that would be just fascinating to really talk with people for even a couple of minutes, just to say hi. And I was thinking about you the other day, thought about you a few years ago, missed talking with you. Maybe it's a chance to reconnect even further beyond that. So that's why I would go back.
It's funny you say that about the podcast and everything too, and having you guys on, and as you guys know, and some of the people who I have actually gotten back in touch with in high school, they've expressed interest in being on the show, and I had Mike Cassie on, who is a near and dear old friend, who's just still an amazing guy, and it's funny because as I was when I did the show with Mike, and even doing the show with you guys, even though it was unscripted, it's weird because I was even more I don't get nervous for the shows. But I was a little nervous. I don't know why, because I feel most comfortable around you guys than anyone. But you know what I mean? It's just you feel that a little bit of vulnerability. Like you have known you for so long, you don't want to mess it up. You want it to be a good show. So you guys have made it a good show.
It's because we know you. That's why.
Yeah.
And inherently that's at least a little bit dangerous. I would imagine to a certain extent. But at the same time, it's just I would imagine if I were you sitting in your shoes, you'd want the show to be great every week, but you'd want that a little bit more when you have people that you really know and care about on, as opposed to people that you've just met through that, as you see my son go back through the background there.
He's on next week's show, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah, he'll be there with drinking his water, so hopefully it's water. But it's probably, you kind of feel, what I would say, you have a significant, special, vested interest in people thinking that the show is interesting, the people you have on are interesting, and that's a little bit heightened when you've got people that you know.
Make your sponsor happy. That's what you want to do.
I think that's part of it.
Put my business hat on. Tim, why are you going to the next reunion? What's bringing you there, and why fulfill that? What kind of fulfillment will there be for you?
Probably close to what Mike said is it'd be fun to go through the yearbook, look at just glance at all the pictures, because 600 kids is a lot. And then maybe see who pops in there at the event and be like, I remember that person, and just see where they are, where they turned out, what they did. Pretty much that's the only thing I can think of with that. But yeah, it'd be nice to maybe just see how somebody's doing decades later that you've not seen it ever since 1993. It's kind of like a revisit a time capsule, kind of like decades later.
Well, Tim, I'll go back to remember when you and I went back in high school to Lorenza Elementary School to get our time capsules. Remember that?
Yep, 1993. We went back and opened a time capsule from 1986, which was fascinating. That was really fun to do.
And the whole point of the reunion really is it is like going back in time a little bit. And Chris, I want to ask you the same question because I don't know about you guys, but I'm a very nostalgic person, and I've pretty much always been that way. You know, there are things in my past that I you know, I'm very nostalgic about. There are special meanings to me. You know, not you know, good, bad, and different, right? I think nostalgia would probably play a role. But Chris, you know, for you, what would kind of draw you to head back? And if it's at the Gideon Putnam in Saratoga Park, you know, I don't know, maybe. Well, I don't think Little Richard is performing anymore.
I believe he's dead.
I believe he is dead. But
He said, yes.
and are you wearing that red sweatshirt? I guess was my question.
Well, apparently never again, just kind of like you never wearing a black shirt again on your show.
Oh, I'll bring that back out again. I need to get some new ones.
Yes. Well, it's funny. If you look at kind of the evolution, if you looked at the 4 of our Facebook pages, you would see that a lot of us have reconnected with a bunch of our high school friends or acquaintances or whatever. So you see to a degree kind of what is going on with a lot of those in the lives of a lot of those people. Okay, whether or not how well you knew them or not, but you haven't made that necessary, you know, that personal connection that, you know, maybe we have here because we did know each other so well and whatnot, and have, you know, a special bond that maybe other people don't. I would go back. You know, I want to know what people are, you know, what they're doing, and, you know, the successes or whatnot. But I don't know. I love to watch, and it would be very interesting to see if the stereotypes that you see in movies and TV, if that would really play out at a 30-year high school reunion. Okay, you know, because you know everything, you know, sometimes, you know, movies do, you know, they glorify things, but sometimes honestly they're spot on. And I would be interested to see how people have evolved, how people maybe have grown up, how people have not grown up. You know, 30 years later, you know, I see the same thing in college. You know, there's some people who I knew very well in college, and they're still living their college years, and you know, they haven't gotten out of that. You know, we're 45 now.
Yeah, I know.
You know, we have kids, we have responsibilities, we have mortgage payments. You know, this is not, you know, college anymore. And you know, so it's always fascinating to me to see how people evolve or don't evolve, and to kind of compare myself to other people, and you know how that all plays out.
I think that Chris will be looking for his stolen Sony Walkman as well. I'm not mentioning names. We all know the story. It might be.
That wasn't me. That wasn't me.
You weren't the one that stole it. You were the one that got it stolen. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
No, I know, and it's funny. He was between your locker and mine. And now, funny enough, he's written a book, this guy.
How to steal a Walkman. How to steal a Walkman. Is that what it's called?
And half your listeners, Brian, don't know what a Sony Walkman is, so that's probably even better to this conversation.
That'll be a hashtag.
They're like, what are these guys talking about?
Well, people, let's close the show out by saying people do change. Yes. And I think that, you know, I think that would be the reason why I want to go back, because I'd be very curious. I know I've changed. I'm proud of the people that I keep company with. I'm proud of who I've become. Not perfect by any means, a completely imperfect human being, but not enough to be able to go back and be happy with who I am and interact with other people who have hopefully also evolved. And, you know, when you're in high school, whether you're friends with people, especially went to a large high school, so I wouldn't necessarily call it close-knit because there was such a large high school, but you for 3 or 4 years or beyond, right? If you went to elementary school with people, you were part of a community.
Yeah.
You did literally see people grow up.
Yep.
I remember even in college, and I remember I was walking around Clifton Country Mall with Dave Walsh, another great guy. And I remember their names. I will not mention their names, but there were two at the time. They were girls, women, right? And Dave and I were walking around. This is probably like, I don't know, freshman or sophomore year of college. I remember they looked at us and they're like, "Oh my God, you guys have really grown up." And these were two girls that wouldn't have given us a second look in high school. So I just think it's interesting how people evolve, how people change.
Yep.
And I think it'd be very cool to see how some of those people have changed, even if it's whether it's somebody that I was friendly with or have reconnected with, like an Eric Kenya, who's an amazing guy, or somebody that I didn't even know that well, be like, "Oh my God, look, you look amazing. You have a great. That's awesome." I mean, I would get a kick out of that, and that goes back to my whole nostalgia thing. I think it'd be cool to see how some of these people have turned out, good, better, and different. Not in a judgy way. Everybody they want to get go on that diet before they get to the high school reunion so they can look. That's not what it's about. It's just about seeing how everybody's doing and hopefully have a beer or a bourbon with people.
Yep.
We're gonna have a beer or bourbon soon, or an iced tea or something at some point here. But you guys have been awesome. It's gonna be a 2-part show for sure, and we're gonna have you guys on again. But you guys have been great. I want to again thank Mike Brown from Iowa, formerly from Clifton Park, New York. Tim Burns from Minnesota, formerly of Clifton Park, New York. Oh, actually, wait, no, but Mike Brown, wrong, right? It was Fisher Ferry, New York, right? Not Clifton Park.
That's Vicious Ferry. Yep.
Fisher Ferry, mailing address.
Yep.
Chris Bossert, Orchard Park, New York, Buffalo area, formerly of Clifton Park, New York.
Yeah.
And I'm Brian Boyer signing off from Clifton Park / Boston Lake, New York. Great high school friends, great guys, great to reconnect. We have a sponsor, mustny.com. Check it out. And in the meantime, I know you guys are doing this every single day, whether it's music, food, sports, keep an eye on life. Guys, be well, and we'll talk soon.